Hello and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that will be replacing Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman in the DC Cinematic Universe moving forward. I've got the legs for it. I really do. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking of superheroes, let's go ahead and take a look at Richard the Lionheart from Cool Mini or Not. In Richard the Lionheart from Cool Mini or Not, 2 to 6 players are going to attempt to help either Richard the Lionheart return to England after the Crusades and restore his rule, or help Prince John as he attempts to usurp his brother and rule England himself. Now, this game has a lot of different mechanics. There's a lot going on here. It's sort of a worker placement game, but let's take a look. The map is a map of England with various cities printed on it. You'll also notice there are various iconographies below each of the cities, kind of telling you what you can do in that particular space. Now, each player is going to get a player card saying who they are. You can either be the red faction for Richard the Lionheart, you can be the green faction for Prince John, or of course you can be the blue faction, which is France, which is a neutral, which is kind of playing both sides in this contest. But of course you have different characters here, some of them very well known: Robin Hood, Maid Marian, Little John, Friar Tuck for the red. But you have Prince John, you have a bishop, the Sheriff of Nottingham, of course, for the green. And then, of course, as I say, you have these French characters. Now, the French characters only come into play when you have odd numbered players. So if you're playing with 2, 4, or 6 players, it's just red versus green. If you play with 3, you're going to have one from each of the colors, red, blue, and green. And then if you're playing with 5 players, you'll have 2 green, 2 red, and then 1 blue. And as I say, that blue player will kind of switch sides throughout the game. Now, you're also going to have kind of your faction card placement. Your faction cards are different things. You're either going to have a banner, a red or green banner. You're going to have the kind of the hourglass, red or green hourglass. And you're going to have the treasure chest, red or green treasure chest. And these are kind of your basic faction cards in the different colors. Obviously, if you're green, you want to collect the green cards. Red, you want to do the red cards. But you can still do stuff if you have cards of the opposite color. Now, you also have the track board, and this is going to be very important in the game because you're going to have 4 different kind of tracks on the board. You're going to have Richard's army, how it's faring against Saladin. You're going to have Saladin's army, how it's faring against Richard, that the green's going to support. You're going to have the King's Return track. Obviously, the people in England want the people that support Richard the Lionheart. They want him to return. Prince John wants him to stay where he is. And then, of course, you're going to have the treasure track. Richard's treasure. Obviously, the red faction wants to keep the treasure in there flowing, and the green faction wants to deplete Richard's treasure as much as they can. So you've got these 4 different tracks, and they're going to be very important because whenever one of those tracks reaches the last space, as soon as one of them reaches the last space, then that is the end of the game, and that triggers the end game. You're also going to have a turn tracking board that also has different prices on it for different things that you can buy over the course of the game. All things being equal, there will be 10 rounds in this game, unless, of course, one of those tracks reaches the end first, in which case the end game is triggered then. Now, the very first thing you do during a round is you get an event card. You read an event card. Now, the event card is going to say what specific conditions are in play for that game, what's going to happen. It may affect the tracks, it may affect spaces, it may affect certain characters, it may help them, may hurt them. Different things are going to happen with that event. The event will also say at the end of the round where the merchant and the mercenary are going to go on the board. The merchant and the mercenary are NPCs. If you ever end your space with the merchant, he's going to give you money or cards, I believe, and then if you end it with the mercenary, you just get some random cards. Now you do have the card deck. Now, in addition to all the face-up cards I mentioned, of the banners, the hourglasses, the treasure chest, you also have kind of a stack of those that are face down that are random, and you'll be able to draw from that stack as well. Now, after you go ahead and you do the event card, the neutral player, if you have a blue player, they're going to declare essentially who they're supporting that turn. Are they going to support red or are they going to support green? They will declare that at that time. Now, at this point, you're going to have kind of your traveling encounter. You're going to start traveling around the board. In the first round, you can place your guy wherever you want him, and then from there after you can travel. Now, all of the spaces on the board, all the cities, are connected by either roads or waterways. Now, you have to have a boat to use the waterways. Normally, you can move up to 3 spaces, up to 3 cities. If you have a horse, you can actually travel up to 4 spaces to get to where you want to go. Now, once you get to the specific space that you want to go to, again, you're going to interact with that space. If you can, you're going to pay the cards or money or whatever, and you're going to get those rewards. Sometimes you can exchange cards for money, or you can get victory points there, or you can get a chance at random cards, or you can choose the cards. Sometimes some of the spaces will actually let you influence the tracks as well. So there's different things that happen. There's also 2 important spaces. There's 2 important spaces on the board. One space is just for the green players. It only helps them. And one space is for the red players. It only helps them. If a player interacts with that, not only do they get a card and some other stuff, your people on your side will also get a card as well. Now you go clockwise doing this, and after everybody has moved and had their encounters with the spaces, then you have purchases. So essentially you can look at that board and you can see, depending on what turn you're on, it says what the prices are. Again, you can buy a ship here, you can buy a horse here, you can buy a victory point, you can buy a card, you can buy a random card. There's different things that you can choose to buy. You can also buy a shield, which will let you on certain spaces with a your colored border, let you draw a random card and then discard a card. So there's different things you can buy to kind of upgrade your character to help you more as you progress through the game. Next, you have to contribute to the Crusade. So essentially, you have kind of a starting Crusade deck of 1 card of each of the 6 types. Again, got the 3 red, the 3 green, they're each represented there. Then every player must contribute 2 cards to the Crusade. If you can't contribute a card to the Crusade, you're going to lose a prestige point, a victory point. So it behooves you to contribute 2 cards. Then you're going to shuffle that deck together. You're going to contribute them face down, although there's some abilities that may let you contribute face up and some that may let you get around the surrendering prestige point for less. And once you have got your contribution of everybody, you shuffle those cards, and then you reveal the first 10 cards. The first 10 cards are essentially going to manipulate the track. Depending on how many cards, for instance, if you got more red cards than green cards, then Richard's army is going to move that difference rather than Saladin's army, or vice versa if the cards are different. Depending on how many treasure cards, the treasure will decrease. Treasure is pretty much always going to decrease unless you get more red cards there. But if you get equal numbers, it's going to move 1. If you get more than equal, it's going to go further. And then, of course, the same thing with the time track with Richard's return. You're trying to manipulate that. The green's trying to get him to stop, and whereas the red team is trying to hasten him forward. So after you go ahead and you get all the track, you figure it out where the track ends up, you go ahead and resolve the event card. Again, you move the merchant and the mercenary to where they need to be. If there's anything else that needs to be done, you do it then. And then, of course, you're going to check for the end game conditions. Have any of the tracks reached the last spot on the board, or was it the end of the 10th round? If that's the case, you go immediately to the end game and to scoring. Now, here's the thing. You're working with your faction partner to try to get your track to a winning place, because your team can only win if your track gets to a winning spot. If you've got more points than anybody else, but you're green and red gets all the way there, you don't win. Somebody in the red faction will win. But once you get to the end, if your team has won, then it's among your team who has the most points. Who has the most points is going to be the winner. So you're working with that person until right to the very end, when you're going to add up your points and you want more points than your opponent, because there is only one winner. Now, if you're the neutral faction, you're playing the long game. You're playing to the end, because if it go all the way to round 10, it's just whoever has the most prestige points wins, and that's what they want. That's how they're going to win. There's a few other little things, I think, that can mitigate that, but generally that's the game they are playing. So, again, the red team's trying to get there, the green team's trying to get there on those tracks and then have the most points. Blue team just wants the game to go to the end, and then they want to have the most points. Once those conditions are fulfilled, whoever team has won and who has the most points is the winner of Richard the Lionheart. So, Richard the Lionheart, of course, is a cool mini or not production, and that means it is a quality, good-looking game. The production quality here is fantastic. You've got these great minis, not just for the particular characters, but some of these NPCs have got great minis, and then you've got the really awesome minis for the track. It would have been so easy just to have tokens for the tracks, but they said, no, we're making minis, and it's awesome. These minis look great. They really add a lot of fun and flavor to the game. Minis are a token, you always want minis. It's not always possible, but it looks good. Played plenty of games with great minis, though, and the game kind of sucked, but I would rather play a game with minis than tokens just about any day of the week, assuming the game's a good game. So that, card quality's good, the boards are beautiful, they're good, really, really enjoy that aspect of the game. And you also have kind of that dedicated Crusade deck, the 6 from each, and then what's ever left over after that. And it would have been nice if there was a dedicated spot on the board for that. If you had some kind of place to place the Crusade deck, not the event deck, a Crusade deck. If you had a place for the Crusade deck, like you had some of these other spots, that would have been nice too. Not a big deal, but it's too easy for those cards to get mixed in with other cards. It'd just be nice if they had a dedicated spot somewhere on the board for that. My biggest issue with this game is the tracks. The tracks are numbered like a couple of them are like 10 to 1, then others are like 1 to 10, and then the different spaces and the different cards will say -1 or +1, and then sometimes like in rule books they'll say moving left and stuff, and that's nice to clarify, but it's confusing. It seems like it is needlessly wonky, it's needlessly confusing. Why they just didn't have 1 to 10 for all of them? That would have been so much easier. It would have made so much more sense. But it just, I guess they were thinking maybe thematically or something, but we had to keep asking, does this one go up or does it go down or what do we do? That was wonky. I was not a fan of that. Other than those things, I really enjoyed this game. I had a lot of fun with this game, and so did the people I played with. This game is fun because, like I say, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Pericles, which I played earlier. Pericles is a GMT game about the Peloponnesian War. It was good, but it was a little too complicated for me. But what I really like about the game is you have that thing where you've got a team, and you're working together to defeat the other team, but you're still fighting amongst each other. You've got a little bit of that here, a more simplified version of that here, where you've got the faction working together to advance your track to where you want it, but then it's whoever has the most points win. So you find yourself at the beginning of the game really looking at the other person on your faction as your buddy, somebody you're trying to get to help you. But as the game goes on, you're getting closer to that end game, you still got to kind of have that a little bit, but now increasingly you're thinking, you're looking at his points. Well, I need more points. I got to get more points, or he's going to win the game. So it's a very delicate balance, and I like that a lot. A lot of fun. Really like that aspect of the game quite a bit. As a worker placement game, obviously you just got the one character. You don't have multiple characters here, but for worker movement, I guess it's pretty fun too. You're going to the different places, and the iconography. You're going to be looking at the rule book for the first few rounds, but you get it. It's not hard to get after a while. Really fun, really solid, and then the idea of the neutral, who is kind of going back and forth, kind of trying to do their own plans the whole game. That is phenomenal as well. I really like that when you've got the neutral there. In fact, I don't know that I'd want to play this game without the neutral. I think 5 players is your sweet spot for this game. It is so much fun trying to get that person on your side, but if you're out ahead, they're not going to be on your side. They're going to play for the underdog. So it's a very, very fun dynamic that, again, I enjoyed very, very, very much. All told, this was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. As you know, I recently reviewed Godfather. The Godfather, Corleone's Empire from Cool Mini or Not. Really liked that one a lot, too. This game reminded me a lot of Corleone's Empire. Different games, but there were some similarities. It did remind me of The Godfather, Corleone's Empire. So one of the people I played this game with was Robert, who had played Corleone's Empire with me, Godfather, Corleone's Empire. And I asked him, which one did you like better? And he said he liked Richard the Lionheart better. And he was playing the neutral, and he said he really liked that kind of going back and forth, trying to play Kingmaker. He really got a kick out of that. I can certainly see that appeal. One of my criticisms of The Godfather was there's no real negotiation, it felt like, and this game has some negotiation. Not a lot, but there is a little kind of back and forth there between the players, and there is that kind of duplicitousness, of course, with the neutral faction, which is really cool. For me, I'm probably going to give the edge to The Godfather just a hair, maybe because I like the theme a little bit better. but I don't know. I really got a kick out of The Godfather. This game, however, Richard the Lionheart, is phenomenal. Aside from some of those little issues I had, this game was just a winner. This is a great game. I really like Richard the Lionheart, and frankly, I wasn't the only one there who said this, but I like this game more than I thought I was going to. I thought I'd like it. I mean, it looked interesting. I thought I'd like it. I really enjoyed it. It was really a lot of fun. So the recommendation for the discriminating gamer for Richard the Lionheart is buy it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamer, and you know what Richard the Lionheart's favorite 1970s band was? It was the Bee Gees. Night fever, night fever. We know how we do it. We can do anything.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
Okay, so hi there. This is Blood and Rum, or Rum and Bones. Rum and Bones by Cool Mini or Not. And a lot of times when you pick up a game, it's really complicated and confusing. It's a very thick rule book. So I'm going to go through what I call just like a real concise, quick rules. So what you got here is this is a 3 to 5 player game. All right, and you have these ones you can choose. I always like to choose Miss Mags because she's the hottest. So, but they all have different abilities and different things that they can do. Miss Mags, she has a distraction ability, where one of the other players, they'll be like, hey, I'm supposed to be fighting this pirate over here, but Miss Mags, she's really low cut, and then you get an extra turn. So that's why I like to play Miss Mags. So basically the way this game works, it's a turn-based game, and what you do is, like, if I'm Miss Mags, the first thing I do is I roll my dice. I roll 4 dice, okay? All right, so I got this number here. I got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 12 points with which to distribute across the board. These guys are worth 3 points, the fat guy is worth 5 points, and the pirate captain's worth 10 points. So where I had this many points, I can only move 3 guys. Now, I don't want to come across here because there's an orange guy. Orange guys are like displacer beasts. This has got a combination between pirates and D&D. So what you do is I'm going to move these guys over here. I'm going to activate them onto this bridge. Now what I've done is I've created a choke point. This is strategy. I'm not going to get into it. You figure out a strategy on your own, but that's what I choose to do is create choke points. This game is really all about just choke points. So now let's say I'm playing against Captain Daniel Pale here. He's a skeleton. His special ability is that since he's a skeleton, he's not affected by rum. So he doesn't get drunk. So as he's drinking all these different rum pieces here, he drinks them, but he doesn't get drunk, and so he's not affected. But then he gets the bonuses of the rum, but now the negatives of the rum. So then what he does is he comes out, he's going to roll his dice, so he rolls 4 dice. Since he is not affected by the rum, he gets 5. Oh, good roll. He got a good roll. He actually got a lot of points. So he's going to choose to move, since he's the purple guys, he's going to move all of his guys to my choke point. This is one of the rare cases where a choke point does not help you because he rolled so high above what I had. This is like the one instance where that particular strategy, it backfired for sure. And he actually takes out my hook anchor hand guy. These pirates don't have hook hands, they have anchor hands. This guy, which makes him way more bad A. So, but he took it out, so I guess he's not as tough as I'd hoped. He takes over at the choke point, pretty much using my strategy against me, and then it goes on like that. So that's basically how you play Rum and Bones in a nutshell.